It's a beautiful store, a lot of square footage. She started back in '08, right in the depths of the economic downturn, and she's still alive today, so she must be doing some things right. I think we've all felt that in the last 3 or 4 years. We've all had to work hard and smart and get through the desolate wasteland of the economy, nationally and the state. And I'm glad to be here today to see all of you here, and I want to thank Diana again for opening her store, so she can come up and she will introduce Rob to us. Diana.
Good morning. My name is Diana Marsden, and Aries Apparel is my store. After leaving a 25-year career in broadcast advertising with the encouragement of my family, I pursued not so much a dream, but a vision for a store where female athletes could shop year-round and find products made for girls in a comfortable and empowering environment created just for them. No offense. Raising 2 daughters playing year-round sports, I saw a need in the community and I decided to fill it. And that was in 2008, as Ken mentioned. So while my timing in launching this venture is not terrific, it's still been very, very rewarding as I see my dream come to fruition. Small businesses like mine account for 60% of the jobs in Oregon. When Washington passes new regulations that impose added costs on business, it creates a substantial amount of uncertainty for growth and expansion. Due to the demand for this new store concept, I am actually hoping to expand my business in the near future. But the uncertain economic climate and tremendous amount of added financial burden on businesses like mine is making me very cautious, and any growth plans are likely to be half what they potentially could be. I expected hard work in starting this business, but I didn't expect all the added costs levied on me as a business owner. It's expensive to be in business. I have some common ground with Rob Cornelis. Rob's decision to run for a congressional seat was also driven by his seeing a need in our community. That need was for responsible leadership in Washington that understands how to live within their means and run a healthy organization. Rob was not able to look his children in the eye and say with confidence that their future was secure. So he chose to enter the race to make a difference for all of us. Rob has spent his life building careers for others, and he understands the rigors of sustaining a successful business with productive employees. The company Rob founded in 1995, Game Face, right here in the First Congressional District, has placed more than 500 individuals in full-time jobs around the country, and he's trained over 30,000 professionals how to achieve greater success. Rob understands the unique characteristics of this district, and his plans are to develop solutions based on our needs, not dictates from any Washington County leader. I am proud to host the Cornelis Jobs for Oregon campaign launch. I'm thrilled that Rob has made creating more local jobs a major initiative. It's encouraging for me to know strategies are in the works to protect and support small business. What Oregon's First District needs is someone who knows what it takes to run and grow a successful business, and someone who will bring these skills to Congress to create jobs for Oregonians and stimulate our economy. I believe Rob is the best person for that job. So please join me in welcoming Rob Cornelis today, and I ask you to listen hard to what he has to say, and tell your friends and family that Rob Cornelis is the best choice to represent Oregon's First District.
Thank you, Diana. Would you sit here with us? I'm just going to stand right here if you don't mind. I feel more confident with you and Ken on either side of me than I do outside there by myself. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I want to thank especially Diana and her employees for putting up with us. But I know her employees are busy working right now. I hope you'll take time to introduce yourself to them and thank them as well. This is a tremendous story, and it's a real pleasure and an honor for me to, as Diana said, kick off our Jobs for Oregon team right here in Aries Apparel. I'd like to tell you, since Diana was nice enough to tell you a little bit about my background, I'd like to do the same for her. I've known the Marsden family for a number of years. In fact, I met Diana first when she was working in the broadcast industry, and then subsequently I eventually met her husband. So it kind of went downhill from there.
He would agree with you.
But Mike and Diana are very successful people in our community, and when I say successful, I'm not just speaking about business. I'm speaking about as a mom and a dad. They have raised a terrific family. And they're also fantastic leaders in our community as far as giving back to the community. Many years ago, I served as the president of an organization called Southside Soccer Club. It's based in Tigard, but we have players and families that come from all over the Portland metropolitan area. And Mike and Diana had put a lot of time and effort into that organization as they were launching it in the early part of last decade. So when I came on as president about midway through the decade, I found time and time again that this was a family that had done so much to help youth in our community be successful using sports and help families as well. And it was great to learn more about their contributions. But then, about 3 years ago, I learned about Diana's story to start Aries Apparel. It really is, it's a quintessential Oregon story for business. Because Diana has 2 daughters who are with us today, Blair and Samantha, former athletes, from high school athletes I should say, but they've been very involved in athletics even as they've gone on in their careers and in their professional pursuits. And while they were in high school, attending Tigard High School, they were very involved in basketball, tennis, and soccer, and they were year-round athletes. And I know a little bit about that because I have 3 sons that you may know, and my boys have also been involved in athletics. But as young ladies involved in athletics, they worked out during the off-season, quote unquote, but they were discovering that there just really wasn't in some of those larger chains apparel that was suitable to women. And as Diana's creation, Aries Apparel, puts as their motto, we don't have anything against boys, we just don't like to wear their clothes. And so Diana had an idea. And the idea was, and she brought this to her family, and that is, let's create a place where girls and women can go to buy specifically for them clothing, equipment, and accessories to make the sports experience more enjoyable. And that idea turned into a fantastic business. And I might add, Diana did this when the economy was heading into the recession. So she and her family took a gigantic risk when they opened up this store that we're in today. And then she discovered that despite her good intentions, a lot of things that were happening out of Washington were hurting her ability to be successful. And I know a lot of you who are here today run, operate, even own small businesses. And so you can relate to what Diana has gone through. She doesn't know what kind of regulations are coming down from Washington next. She doesn't know what kind of taxes are going to be imposed on her and her employees. And she's, I think I speak for Diana and certainly for Ken as well when I say that when we hear about, quote, tax reform coming out of Washington, too often that just means another way to increase taxes on American businesses. And when we hear about regulation, too often that just means you can expect another visitor walking through your store, your office, telling you of more regulations and stacks of paper you have to comply with. And for small businesses in Oregon, especially as Diana said, where 60% of the jobs are found, this is untenable. This is not a way to grow our economy. It's not a way to put our kids and even our seniors to work, those who want to work. So I'm very encouraged to see a success story such as Aries Apparel. It gives me hope as a small business owner myself. And it also encourages me to know that she's not only being successful in business, but she continues to use her success to improve the community. She's giving back through making contributions and helping sports organizations, schools, even women organizations through the success that she's enjoying. And that's a model for all of us to follow, certainly. And quite frankly, we need more car constructions. We need more Aries Apparel in Oregon, and this is why I'm running. Because there's one thing Diana has not had. There's one thing that Ken Carr does not have in his business, and that is they don't have a champion in Congress representing the First District. We haven't had it for years, and currently, because of the situation we're in as a state, we don't have a congressman representing this district at all, in any respect. We're the only district in the country out of 435 that doesn't have a voice in Congress today. And that's a shameful thing to admit, but admit it we must. And, ladies and gentlemen and friends, we're here today because we're all unified in the notion that we have to do so much better. We deserve to do better because this is a great place to live. And hopefully it's a great place to start and flourish in a career. And that's why I'm running. I'm very excited to work with our Jobs in Oregon team, many of whom are here today. And I thank you for being here and supporting this effort. As Diana said, this event is a kickoff to what we hope to do over the next 4 months to let Oregonians know that this is a good place to hire. It is a good place to expand a business. But it's going to take grassroots effort like the people who have taken the time from your own business, from your own work, from your own customers and clients to be here today. And I appreciate you doing that. So what I'd really like to do is I'd like to ask if there are any comments, especially from those of you in here today who are like Diana, like Ken, who are working as hard as you can to keep a business going, or perhaps are looking to expand your business, or perhaps even start another one, or a new one. Any comments or questions that you might give to me so that I can be a more effective representative for you, not just as a candidate, but hopefully as an elected official come the end of January. I'd appreciate any thoughts or questions that you may have. Manuel.
Rob, what I was thinking, I just came out from another business meeting, and a lot of times people in Washington say, oh look, this is the tax rate we have for people like you. But when you add up all the other taxes that we have here, which Oregon is a very high tax state, and fees and everything else, we feel like we're working for somebody else. And at times you start wondering, is it better to throw the towel in the ring or keep moving forward? So could you please make sure that when people talk about certain rates that you also mention the other ones that are on top of those that we're having to deal with?
That's right. We have some serious and real challenges as it relates to the tax code today. First of all, as those of you who support our campaign know, I have been very adamant in my view that we need to simplify the tax code. We spent as a population in the United States estimated 8 billion hours last year alone just trying to figure out what we owe the government through the tax code. That's a lot of, to me, unproductive hours. Not to mention the the money that goes in to trying to fill out a tax form. The fact of the matter is we need to simplify the tax code by lowering the rates and getting rid of all the crazy loopholes that, frankly, very few, if any, small businesses ever can take advantage of because they're so cumbersome and complicated. And to try to figure it out, you have to hire an army of lawyers and accountants. No offense, Shauna, who's a great accountant. You also have to hopefully have some people, some friends in high places, lobbyists even, who will go and fight for you among elected officials in Washington or even in Salem. It shouldn't be that way. My small business can't afford to do that. And I don't think large corporations, the mega corporations, should have an advantage over you. After all, as Diana said, 60% of Oregon employees are employed by a small business. So we need to look after those small businesses and give them more advantages. And I'll share with you also a sad statistic. 100 years ago in this country, all governments, federal, state, and local, spent about 11% of the gross domestic product. About 11%. Today, all governments, federal, state, and local, are spending 42% of our GDP. And if we don't change the way things are going in this economy right now, if we don't put government in its rightful place to be a check and a balance to make sure that fair regulations are passed, but not that we don't have an overextension of unfair and onerous regulation. If we don't do that, ladies and gentlemen, that percent is going to approach 50 before too long. And then we're going to be more like Spain, more like Italy, more like Greece. And I don't think we want our economy to look like that. So tax simplification is the key. And I think that if Diana has more certainty, if she knows what their tax obligations will be, not 12 months from now, like a lot of people in Washington are apt to propose, here, what do you think about this tax cut, or this tax deduction, or this tax credit? And so it sounds good temporarily, but it gives us no certainty, so we know what's coming around the corner. Unless we give them long-term predictability, we're not going to see the Dianas and the Kens take the risk of investing, of hiring, as much as they would like to. And I know both of these fine people, as well as you, would like to grow and expand. But until we give you certainty out of Washington, we can't expect you to do that. That's the kind of mindset I have as a small business owner, and that's the kind of mindset that's lacking in Washington today. Any other comments or thoughts? Gary, please.
Well, besides the regulations on business, you mentioned expanding business, because the regulations on banks, banks are locked up, they're handcuffed. I've heard many comments from different bankers out of capacity, sometimes cease and desist because it fell out of the ratios of what the new government regulations are. You can take the handcuffs off banks besides business.
I agree, Gary. One of the common complaints I hear among voters is, even among small business owners or people who want to start something, I go to my bank and I give them, well, I'll give you one quick example, and she gave me permission to share this. My own barber, her name is Darlene. She has a shop in King City, Oregon. I've been going to her for years. She just recently moved into a new shop just across the street, opened it up in July. And I asked her how it went. How was the process? Was it difficult to move from one shop to the next as far as regulation, financing, etc.? And she said that she went to her bank simply requesting a $5,000 loan, and she couldn't get it. $5,000. She couldn't get it. Now, I'm not here to say it's the bank's fault. To Gary's point, I don't know what the particulars are of her request and her loan application, but I do know that the banks now, because of certain regulations that have been passed, specifically the Dodd-Frank bill, which is more than a year old now, that bill was 2,000 pages high. In order to implement it, it requires about 20 times that in regulation. And so a law is not just 2,000 pages and then leave it alone. It turns into additional regulation and restrictions. And so now the banks are constrained. Their loaning capacity has been crimped because of this regulation. They're not able to be as free and as entrepreneurial in their own lending practices as we've seen in the past in our economy. So everybody is suffering from the decisions of a few in Washington, D.C., who, I might add, very few of those people have ever done what many of you have done, including what Gary has, and that is met a payroll. Very few of them have ever written a budget and then stuck to it. For heaven's sakes, in the U.S. Senate, we haven't had a budget in 3 years. How many of your businesses could go without a budget for 3 years? I know you wouldn't be here today. You'd be bankrupt in this economy if you didn't have to make tough decisions, and that's what budgets are for. But we don't have elected officials who have the courage to make tough decisions, and they certainly don't want to put it in writing so you and I can see what they plan to do. This mindset has to change. It has to change by sending different people to Washington. Because if we continue to do what we've been doing, we're going to continue to get the same results we've been getting. Any other comments? Please, Lance.
One of the things that I'd like to see changed is our fear of the government through the regulations. In our industry, in years past, there was very few fines given out, and this last year there was $850 million worth of fines given out to our industry alone. We run around in fear of violating a regulation that we didn't even know we had. And they can come in and they've shut down whole businesses because of a regulation that is unknown, because they're all new. I mean, and when we fear our government, they're like the military. The federal police show up at your doorstep And they're not here to help you more than they are to raise revenue so that they can meet their payroll.
I'd like to ask Ken or Diana if you have any comments on that in your particular businesses. You ever experienced that where there was regulations that you only found out perhaps at the last moment, or you found it out and discovered that you couldn't expand or couldn't participate in a project that you were hoping? Manuel, you...
I want to echo what he just said. I mean, we're out there waiting for the OSHA guy to show up, and you're not doing anything wrong, but he'll look for the cord, so any stupid little thing to see where he can get you, you know? And I can guarantee you that if he goes in there, he will walk out with something, I think. Because if I look hard enough, I'll find something here or anyplace.
Is that a challenge?
No, what I'm saying is that their mission should be to make sure that the people are safe, not to raise revenue. And what they're doing is just raising revenue and creating more and more positions for themselves. We're tired of that. That needs to stop. The government needs to be decreased.
You go from one state to the next, and you have OSHA, WSHA, and have all different rules. And I've been fined for someone else doing something else on a job site I had no idea or any part of, because I didn't know about it. But I do know about it now because I put a qualification that I'm not responsible for this general contractor. So there's a lot of surprises that do OSHA.
I'm sure all of us have examples of this. This inconsistency from state to state and also from state to federal regulation. Bill?
Well, you know, a long time ago, you came to Oregon, you had Tektronix, you had Evans Products, you had Louisiana Pacific, Georgia Pacific, Boise Cascade, Willamette Industries. We had a very vibrant and growing entrepreneur business development of Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies. Now we're down to 3. And, you know, you're going to represent Oregon. What can you do? Free trade, or what's the answer to stimulate Oregon? I know the state has a lot to do with that, but what can you do?
Well, it's a great question. And you brought up trade.
Yeah, that's
I think that this is a very timely topic. Tomorrow in Congress, as we understand it, they will be voting as to whether or not to authorize the free trade agreements that the President has signed. The executive branch has negotiated with South Korea, Panama, and Colombia. And ladies and gentlemen, these free trade agreements have been on the President's desk for years. And finally, from the pressure of Congress, particularly a Republican Congress in the House, the President has signed these, and now he's moved them up for final authorization. We anticipate all 3 will be signed tomorrow, which is a huge boon to our economy, not just Oregon, but nationally. In fact, the South Korean President, President Lee, will be in Washington tomorrow for that signing, and as I understand it, he'll be addressing Congress. I wish I was there to shake his hand and say, we're glad that Oregon is going to be open for more business with Korea. Last year alone, this state produced $1 billion in economic activity just through trade with Korea. Just Korea. We have about 450,000 jobs in the state of Oregon that are directly tied to international trade. Unfortunately, for the last 13 years, we haven't had a congressman bill that saw free trade agreements as a positive thing for our economy and our people here. So he was an obstacle to them. He fought against them. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting trade at any cost. We must have free trade agreements that are fair, that are open, that are transparent. And when our trade partners are not abiding by the rules, we rely on the executive branch to make sure that they comply properly. So it's not a carte blanche, but rather it's a way to open up new markets. And if you look at this district alone, this county, Washington County, Intel, 100% of their employees rely on international trade. And they have 15,000 employees, soon to be 16,000. Nike, which obviously relies on Aries Apparel to help them. 100% of their employees rely on international business. Columbia Sportswear, the same. The Port of Portland relies on international trade. These are major employers right here in our district. People who live here, who participate in our communities, who feed our schools. So if we're not a champion for opening up new markets and having confidence in Oregon businesses to be competitive, then I think that whoever's trying to put themselves in this position as representative doesn't understand the district they're trying to represent. Unfortunately, my three opponents on the Democrat side, two of them have absolutely come out against the free trade agreements, if you can imagine that, for this district. And one, she said she hasn't decided yet. So I guess she needs more time to think about it. But it's being voted on tomorrow. I will tell you, though she won't, if I was in Congress tomorrow, I would vote yes. And I would say, let's bring more jobs to Oregon. Well, I thank you for being here once again. Because we're all trying to sustain our businesses, we need to let you go and get back to what you do best. But once again, I want to thank all of you for coming, for spending the time, not only to be here, but for those of you who are on our Jobs for Oregon team. Thank you for your contributions, what you've already done and what you're going to do in the future to spread this message and to bring more people into this campaign. And I especially want to thank Ken for helping to lead this effort, and mostly I want to thank Diana and Aries Apparel and their great employees for opening up their store to us. I hope you all brought a little bit of extra cash so you could find something for your granddaughter or your daughter. And I guess I'm off scot-free since I don't have any. But I do. No, but Allison, while I'm talking to certain members of the media, I want you to take a nice tour. All right? Help yourself. So thank you for coming. We'll see you at future events, I'm sure. I appreciate you being here.
So ladies, you have to zip back to work. Zip back to work. Hey, where are you working now?
At the ESPN station. I'm not.
I know that.
They're about to close out, so.
I was just thinking, is it 11:30? Ooh, it's past. Well, I was listening to sports talk radio on the way in.
Oh, were you?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of listening. I just don't remember listening. I'm watching. My body has injury. So they were saying at 11:30, Michael James's doctor's going to talk about the extent of his injury.